Hello, in this video we're going to look at how to download Joomla and then install the package manually on a hosting package and set up a brand new website. It takes a little bit of time, but it's certainly not a difficult thing. So we're going to take it from the very start, and I've created a little list here of the different steps we're going to go through. We're going to look at buying a domain, buying a hosting package, and then pointing the new domain at the hosting package by changing the name server. And then we're going to look at downloading Joomla, uploading Joomla again to our new hosting package, creating a database, installing Joomla, and then finally making some tweaks such as setting the htaccess file. So that's what we're going to work through. So let's start at the start. We're going to think about how to buy a domain. So if you've built a website before, then you're probably familiar with this step, but let's just assume you know little about this type of thing. So you need to use a company that sells domains, and there's many around. In the UK, a popular choice is 123reg, but no matter what country you're in, there'll be one you can use, a system. So if you want a domain, you simply search for it by typing it in and seeing what comes up, and if it's available it'll show up in a list. This one isn't available because I've actually already purchased it, and we're going to look at that in a minute. But if it's available and the one you want is there, you add it to your basket, you go through a payment process, and once it's paid for, then it should appear in your account for the system that you're using. In my case, 123reg, I have an account with them. So here within 123reg, I'm logged in now, and this is within my account. You can see the domain we're going to be working with today is northsky.co.uk, which is a UK address. But this is the same process works with any extension on any domain. So that's the domain we're going to set up and turn into a website. For any website that you have, you need hosting. Hosting is the server where the website is being stored upon. Joomla do recommend various options, but if we look at the very bottom of the Joomla website, we can actually see there Joomla hosting is by Rotchen, and Rotchen is the company I also use. So if you were to click on that, it opens up a recommendation here for Rotchen and shows how it supports Joomla. And there's various different packages, whether you want one website or whether you want hosting for multiple websites. So you can choose to buy that package, and then you'll have somewhere to work with. But there are many options. There's popular options such as HostGator or GoDaddy. They all offer similar packages. However, though, I do prefer working with Rotchen. Once you've paid for a hosting package, then you need to basically tell it the domain you're going to be working with. If you own it externally, then you're using a third-party registrar, a bit like 123reg that I already showed you, or you can register domains using Rotchen as well if you wish. Once you have it, you go through the process of adding the details in here, paying for the domain, and then creating an account so that you have somewhere to access. So I already have done that. Here I use Rotchen regularly, so you can see this is within my Rotchen account, and I've currently created hosting for the domain northsky.co.uk, and it's set as a primary account. Once you have that, then what we need to look for is the name server details, and they're noted here, just there, name server details. So we need to set the name server on the domain. This simply allows the domain, when somebody types it in, to know where the hosting is, to point in the right direction. So if I look in my 123reg account and look for change name server, click on that, and then here we can enter the name server number 1 and name server number 2, as I already have done so, and then click update, and it will change the name servers if I were to do that. The default on 123reg, I think, is it uses a 123reg name server, so you need to switch it from 123reg to point towards the Rotchen server using these settings here, and as you can see, it's already done. One thing to note, it can take up to 48 hours from when you change a name server for it to become fully active. So do bear that in mind. Often though, it can be relatively quick, not sometimes almost instant, but you should be aware if it's not working the way you expect it to, give it more time. And there are tools around to check if your domain is propagated correctly or not. So we need to change the domain, the name server to point towards our Joomla hosting package. So that's already done and is taken care of. So I can close that bit out. So far within our little job list, we've bought the domain, we've bought a hosting package, we've changed the domain name server to point at the new hosting package, and now we're ready to download Joomla. So on the Joomla website, we're going to go for this option here. It's normally relatively high up on the page. Download Joomla. And there's various options. There's an upgrade package or the full complete download. And as I'm in the UK, it's giving us the UK package. There might be different language options depending where you are in the world. The current version is 3.9.2 and it's always best to use the latest version. So I'm going to download that just by clicking on it. And I'll download that to my Windows download folder. It's around about 13 megabytes, so it might take a little bit depending on how fast your internet connection speed. It'll certainly take longer to upload once we get to that stage. We'll give it a little minute. I'm trying to do this in real time as much as possible. Just to give a realistic feel of how long it does take to actually set up a website. So that'll take a little moment. Almost there. We no longer need the Joomla website, so we can close that down. And while that's finishing its download, I'm quickly going to mention that our northsky.co.uk domain name is currently active, and the domain is pointing at the hosting, ready for some content. And you can see that because it doesn't have any content, it's simply showing us this index off file extension type system, which, well, not file extension, but it's basically an empty website. There's no content for the domain to see. Hopefully this is going to be quite quick soon. Just waiting for that to download. Show in folder. We have to wait for this little blue bit to finish. Come on, Chrome. Come on. There we go. So I don't really want to open it. We want to go back to our downloads folder and find it there. That's it there. So I'm going to copy that and just put it somewhere I can find it a bit easier. I've got a folder ready for all the stuff we need. Paste that there. So that's the package that we're going to need to upload. And we want to upload it to our website, and for that we need to go back to our hosting at Joomla and access cPanel. So here we can see this is our basically our package at Joomla, and we want to access cPanel. If you're using different hosting, there might be different ways of getting to this depending on their layout, but as long as we can get to cPanel, then we can do things. Open that up and it'll look pretty much like this. And initially we want to find our file manager. So we can click on that, which opens up another tab. And we want to upload our Joomla package our zipped package to the public HTML folder of our hosting package. So we'll open that, and now here I want to go to upload and find the package. Here it is here. Drag it across and drop it there. And I say it's around about 13.3 megabytes, so it might take a little while depending on your internet connection speed. I've got a relatively slow upload speed, so we might need to wait for that to do its thing. But there are jobs we can do in the meantime. Overall though, on our list, we have downloaded Joomla, and now we're uploading Joomla to our hosting. And now while it's uploading, we can look to create a database. If you're not familiar, Joomla stores much of the content that you create, whether that's articles or things like that, within a database. So we need to create that database so it's ready to go. So I'm going to go back to my C panel, and we're going to go to MySQL databases. Click on that, and we're going to create a database. I want to call it something memorable. Our domain name is North Sky, so I think I'm going to use that as the label for my database. There, create database. Alright, so that's my database name. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to store that somewhere that I can use it. I'm going to store it in this text file for now, just somewhere handy so I don't forget the important details that I'll need later when installing Joomla. Go back. Databases need a user that can actually access the database, so we need to create a user. So we've created the database itself. Now down here, if I scroll down, we want to create a database user. I'm going to use that same name of North Sky there, and now we want to have a password, so I'm going to use the password generator here. I'm going to copy and paste out into my text file here the password. I'm going to save this so we don't lose it, and I'm going to choose to use that password here. It confirms that it's a very strong password, which it always should be. We're going to create the user, and it confirms again the username is that, which is the same as the database name. But just to show that, I'm going to copy that out back to my text file and just paste it below my database name. So you can see they're exactly the same. The database name and the database username are the same. They don't have to be, but in this case I'm making them the same. Well, that's the password there. So there are the details we're going to need to create for the Joomla installation. There's one final job here I need to do. I need to associate the user to the database, so this user can access that database. So I'm simply going to add the user to the database and make sure they've got all privileges checked, so they can do everything they need to in relation to that database, make changes. Once it confirms that here in green, we're good to go. So we can go back, and now we've created the database and user in readiness for installing Joomla. So let's go back and see how our installation is getting on. You can see it's now at 100%, which means it should have completed. So we should be able to close out this window and go back to my public HTML folder within my file manager. What we can find, there it is there. Okay, so that's our uploaded package. We now need to extract this, so we're making sure it's selected by in blue, and then we're looking for an option to extract over here. So we'll click on that, and we can extract it to the public HTML folder, and that's what we want. Extract files, close. And now what we can do at this stage is we can actually delete this zip file now. We no longer need it, so let's just remove it out of there. Skip the trash and permanently delete these files. Okay, so we've got all the actual file structure for Joomla now. We now need to install it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the actual website tab here and refresh and see what happens. Alright, so now it's finding the file structure that we've just uploaded, and it's now saying please install. So we need it to give it some details. So we're going to go through this and fill out all our user information. So I'm going to call it North Sky Test Site. And I think I'll use the same for description. Now clearly if this is a live website that you actually plan to optimize and really get going properly, you want to maybe a bit more descriptive here, because these terms will be used for search engine optimization as a default. You can change them though. So I want to put my country of United Kingdom. That's making me do that again, is it? There we go. Then I want to add some user details here. So I'm going to use an email address that isn't real, but it doesn't need to be for my setup here. I'm only showing how this can be done. If it's a real website though, obviously use a real email address. And now I want a username and a password that is going to be used to access the admin of the website. So it's important you put details down here that are first off secure, and secondly you write them down somewhere. So a username, I'm going to have a username of David. Let's save that to my little text file over here. So I'm just going to have some notes. Joomla access user David, and now I want a password. Now there's a little thing you can do of a little web search of strong password generator. There's quite a few of these different websites around that can generate random passwords. So I'm going to generate a password here. I'm going to show some options. I'm going to remove the punctuation and generate again, and then copy that password. So first off, I'm going to paste that into my text file. I'm going to make sure my text file is saved. So I've got these details that I'll need to access the website once it's set up here in my text file, and now I can go back to my installation and paste in that password. Ready to go. Site offline? No. And click next. Now we're looking to actually set up that database. We've already created these details. We want the username in the database, and our database name and username were the same. So the username is that, the database is the same, and the password was this here. So we want to copy that out and paste it in here. Hostname in most cases would be localhost, so just leave that as it is. We don't have an old database, so we're not looking to back up or remove or anything like that. So all we need to do is click next. We don't need to save that password. We don't want any sample data. If you wish to, you can. I don't want any sample data like text articles and stuff like that that's already part of your website. I just want a blank slate. So that's what I'm going to leave my sample data as none. Check there's no issues here. Everything looks good. That looks fine to me, and click install. So it's creating the database, tables and structure, and then we'll almost be there, I think. There we go. Congratulations. Joomla is now installed. Okay. So as a little bit of housekeeping, we want to remove the installation folder, and then we can look to access the website. So we're going to access the front of the website first. There we are. So that's how Joomla tends to look with the default template. And we also want to consider accessing the administrator side of the website, and this is where we're going to need the details that we entered before, the password and the username, and click login. Okay, and click save. So immediately we've got a few things we can tidy up. I'm going to never for that. I'm going to just get rid of my post installation messages, read all messages. It just keeps it nice and tidy on that dashboard. And now let's think about this error here. It's a warning of which PHP version we're using. It's generally best to use the most recent version of PHP that Joomla currently supports. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our cPanel, and we're going to look for the settings that we need to change the PHP version. So down here, there will be some variation in the tools you get in the different versions of cPanel, but the version we have here is Select PHP Version. I'm going to click on that. And we'll update it to the latest version once our internet connection speeds up. So currently it's on PHP version 7.1, and I'm going to put it to 7.3 because I know that's a relatively stable and current edition, so that should be working fine. Set as current. So that's it done. So we'll go back to our main dashboard. And now we're going to go to the Joomla dashboard and refresh. And now that we've updated the PHP version, we're no longer getting that warning. Let's check we can still see the front of the website. So we've got some other things to fix here, such as currently we don't have any security certificate enabled correctly. So there's two things we need to be aware of. One, we need to have an active security certificate. And that can normally be done by checking up here on our dashboard of our cPanel to see if we have an active certificate. If you don't, then you need to use some of the tools that are built into cPanel to generate one. A popular tool for generating security certificates is Let's Encrypt. So that's an option. I do know there is an active security certificate, otherwise that wouldn't be in green, it'd be in red, and there wouldn't be a padlock closed there. So all we need to do within the Joomla admin is go to Global Configuration, and we want to go to System, I think it is. Sorry, Server, let's get it right. And then force https for the entire site, and click Save. And immediately you can see in the admin, now we have our password, and if we go to the home page, we can refresh that, and now we have an active security certificate as again. That's quite important these days, and certainly helps with search engine optimization to ensure that you're using a secure website. Other things that's worth considering while you're in the general configuration here is maybe entering your time zone. For simple websites, it might be less important, but if you happen to have a booking system or anything like that, ensuring that your website is on the correct time zone is relatively important. Save and close out of there. I think we'll edit one more thing actually. So what I'm going to do is a quick example just so you can understand a couple of things. We're going to create a menu item. If in Joomla, we're simply going to call it test, and I will make it a single article. We're going to create an article called test. It really doesn't matter. I'm just doing this to show you something. Have some content there. Save and close. Save and close. Go to the front of the website. Refresh. We can see we've got our test page now. If we click on that, and now look at the URL structure, we've got this index.php in there. We want to remove that to tidy up our URL of the website, which helps with search engine optimization and just generally looks tidier as well. So let's fix that. So we're going to go to Global Configuration, and we want to go, what is it again? Remind myself. There we are. On the site set tab, we want to use URL rewriting, and we want to go save and close. Now, when I refresh this, we're going to have a problem. Notice it didn't change. Let's just go to the home page and then back to that test, and we're getting a 404 as I expected. Because if we use the rewriting tool in the URL structure, we also need to activate the htaccess file. And notice here, after installing Joomla, that was one of my jobs to do, htaccess file. So let's do that just now. So back in our file manager, we want to find our htaccess file, which is that one there. We want to make sure it's selected, and we want to rename this file. I'm going to remove the .txt extension and then go to the front of htaccess in the letters there and add a dot and click rename file. And now we can see it is now .htaccess. If we refresh our URL that was causing a 404, you can see it's now fixed, and you can see now we have a cleaner URL. While we're within our htaccess file, I'm going to add one little thing I like to do, which is this little couple of lines of code. And what this is going to do, this is going to force our website to use the www. This is a little bit of a personal preference. Notice it doesn't currently have that www. I prefer that within my websites. So I'm going to force that to happen using the htaccess file. So again, I'm going to go back here, find my htaccess file, right click on it and click edit. Now clearly you could use other means of editing this content if you have FTP, but this is the tool we're using for today. So we're going to edit that. I want to go down to RewriteEngine on, add a space, paste in that code, and now we need to update that code to use our domain. So I'm going to copy out our domain here and go back to our editing and paste over there and paste over there, and now we want to save changes and close. Right, now if I go to the front of the website and refresh, notice we now have the www. On every page of the website it will automatically ensure that that is there, and I generally prefer that within my Joomla websites. Okay, so now we have a full manual install of Joomla ready to go, where you can access and start adding content to your website. Hopefully you find this helpful.